Sorry, guys, just wait 1 second, please. Something just kind of fell on my way. Was not expecting that to happen, but now it should be good, ready to go. All right, everybody. What's going on, JP Football Fanatics fans? It's your boy, JP Football Fanatics, back with you once again with another recap video for this week, which we already did weeks 1 and 2. We're already going into week 3, which is absolutely it's crazy to think about that we've already been through 3 weeks of NFL action, everything like that. Like, it's just absolutely crazy that we've already gone through all that stuff. We're already, already a month through football, almost practically. So it's crazy to think about, and I'm just really excited about getting ready to talk about the week 3 from this NFL season so far. A lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to cover tonight. So, just kind of going to keep doing what I've been doing in recent weeks in terms of keeping things short, sweet, and to the point. Like, for games that I haven't really watched too much or have too much comment to say, kind of limit the amount of time that I use them. And then as well as the games that I do want to talk about more, just kind of keeping it short, sweet, and to the point as well. For those, just for time constraints and everything, because we understand that here at JP Football Fanatics, we try to shorten things up as best as possible and keep everything to be clear and understanding, and just not really we don't really enjoy we don't like overexerting ourselves too much. So that's really what it is really here. I don't really like exerting myself too much in games. I like going on and on and on about things. I just want to keep things short, sweet, and to the point, so that way everybody is familiar of what they're supposed to do. So, great to see everybody again. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope everybody was able to enjoy the NFL Week 3 season. If everybody wants to, if everybody has the time to do so at this point in time, please be sure to drop a like on this video if you haven't done so already. And also be sure to hit that notification bell as well for any time that I go live here, or if I post pre-recorded stuff for the podcast. And so that way you guys will be the very first ones to be notified when new content is posted on here. And then subscribe, like the video, drop a comment down below, and tell me what you guys think. I really enjoy feedback. I really want to be able to get to talk with football with you guys, and I want to be able to help this channel grow to be bigger and better than what it is already. So like, comment, subscribe, do all the glory things, help the channel grow to be bigger and better than what it is already. So I'm already at 26 subscribers, 26 subscribers. Thank you to all those who have been subscribing. Thank you for everybody that's been putting likes on the videos, and thank you so much for everybody that's been tuning in to the JP Football Fanatics during the season. I know it's a very hectic time of year for a lot of people. I know it is for me, because I also work during the school year. I work in a school setting, and I do this on the side as well. So it's a lot of work, but we're managing, we're focusing. We're definitely maintaining everything, so that way I can give you guys the best content that you guys deserve as NFL fanatics. So without further ado, we will go ahead and we're going to get ourselves into the week 3 recap. So this was definitely a week to really remember as far as games go, as far as history being made. And there's a lot to talk about. I'm sure all of you have been informed. I'm sure you've all been watching all weekend. If you're a football fanatic like I am, you know a lot of things that have been going on. You know everything that's been going on. So this is an opportunity to be able to get my recap on it, what I think, what my reaction were to some of these games and scores that I saw. There's going to be quite a few games that I want to be able to give reactions to. So that will be that for this one. So let's get into it. We'll start off with the first game of the week, or the first game of last week, that is. And that was the 49ers and Giants game. So we know the Giants, they've been struggling a lot this year. Both offense and defense. That's not an exaggeration. They've been struggling significantly all throughout the beginning portion of the season. They were able to get that win against Arizona, come from behind victory. Then they had to go play San Francisco in San Francisco. So that's a tough game to go up against, a tough team to go up against. It's one of the best teams in the NFL. And the 49ers played the Giants were like nothing, to be honest with you. I mean, as far as like the score itself, so the game itself, when you kind of watch the game a little bit, like that the score itself doesn't really indicate always as bad as what the overall game was. So the beginning portion, if you're looking at the first half of the game, the Giants were playing pretty considerably well, I guess. I thought they played much better than they did against Arizona and what they played against Dallas in weeks 1 and 2 respectively. I thought this was one of their better games that they played, but their biggest problem is what most people were thinking would be the problem for this year, and that was the defense. So the defense gave up way too many big third down conversions, and they weren't efficient enough on third downs. They weren't really efficient in the red zone either. They weren't really stopping them in the red zone really as much, in the second half of the game. So overall, the game really itself, the score may have seemed like it was a bad game for them, but when you take a look on the other side of it, they were kind of matching up with the 49ers quite well in the first half. They had some good drives on offense to kind of get them down the field and get them scoring and everything like that. So they were doing okay in that portion. Daniel Jones was kind of doing what he could. He wasn't turning the ball over like he did against Dallas and Arizona. Like he wasn't doing any of those crazy things right like that. But he was lost without Saquon Barkley. That was definitely evident here. Saquon as his best player on this, really the best player on this whole team, to be honest with you, and probably more or less Daniel Jones's right hand man. That was a tough break for him. So when you kind of see Daniel Jones play, like you can see a big difference between when Barkley is out there versus when he's not out there. And that was kind of the case, a case of what we did see on Thursday night last week. Not that Daniel Jones actually played as bad as I thought he probably would have against this really talented forefront of the San Francisco 49ers. But, in terms of like finding receivers and getting players into the offense, you could tell that he was lost and he was not comfortable out there without the help of Saquon Barkley. So that was a tough break for him. Darren Waller still has yet to get himself going with the offense. And Paris Campbell, as much as he's been pretty, been okay for them, but he's not the kind of guy. He's not a number one. I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place right now because my computer charger got out a little bit. But as far as Paris Campbell, he hasn't really been all that efficient yet, and he's really not a number one receiver for this team. But he's a good slot intermediate kind of guy that can get the short passes. He can catch the short routes and be able to run the short routes effectively and be able to do that. So he's a good route runner, but as far as like him being like that overall number one and taking command of the passing game, that's just very unlikely. Darren Waller, had some couple moments where he was good, but still has yet to really prove that he's a big part of this offense. The offensive line also struggled too. They gave up a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones too, which allowed Nick Bosa on the other side to get a sack or two on Daniel Jones, and that was also tough too. So the offense itself really didn't do anything to really keep themselves in the game. But when you take a look on the defensive side of things, like San Fran was kind of moving the ball. They were moving the ball effectively, but they weren't really scoring very quickly. They just took a lot of time up, and therefore they took up a lot of time in terms of being able to score, taking time off the clock, and using the clock wisely to their advantage because they knew that they could take advantage of a very, very weak Giants defense. So the 49ers on offense, everybody got the job done. Purdy played well. Deebo Samuel also played very well as well. He's also questionable for this week. There was an injury that happened to him during this particular game. McCaffrey, of course, always a big part of this team, always a big part of this offense. And George Kittle, actually. George Kittle also became more effective into the offense than what we saw in the first 2 weeks, which was a big plus for them too. Because if Deebo, if his injury is also if his injury is a big effect to this week, George Kittle can pick up a lot of targets and be able to pick up a lot of receptions too. Because this team was also without Brandon Ayuk in this game. That was also very huge too. Who's been a solid number 1/2/3 receiver to help them out too. So the Niners won this game, appropriately. I thought they played a very well-rounded offensive defensive kind of game. But they had a bit of a slow start. Brock Purdy had himself a bit of a slow start, but got himself more acclimated. He got himself more comfortable within the pocket and outside of the pocket to make some big throws, and he did. But I really like Brock Purdy, guys. I think Brock Purdy can prove to the NFL this year on why he is a future quarterback for not only this team, but could also be a quarterback for the future of winning Super Bowls with the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan at the home. The differences, which we'll talk about Jimmy Garoppolo later in this episode, but the differences between Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo and why Brock Purdy's been more effective is because Brock Purdy he's a Jimmy Garoppolo type where he likes throwing the short passes. He likes to throw the ball in the middle. But I feel that Brock Purdy is a lot more comfortable with getting outside of the pocket, and he's a bit more agile to be able to get outside of the pocket to make plays. Whereas Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy that's always very rigid, very strict on where he is, and will rely on one or two players, and that's pretty much it. Whereas Brock Purdy will rely on whoever is open at the time for him, and he'll take advantage of that opportunity to be able to do so. So I think Brock Purdy is the future for this team. I really do. I think the way that he commands the team, I think the way that he takes advantage of the offense and picks apart the defense is just incredible. To say that this guy was a seventh round pick in the 2022 draft it's completely unreal of how this guy was a seventh round pick, and he's playing lights out. He's playing better than what other quarterbacks that we've seen in the first round go as of lately, which is just absolutely unbelievable. So the 49ers are going to be a team that's going to be tough throughout the season. The Giants, if they can make a couple if they can make a couple adjustments, if they can make like those big time defensive adjustments with Wink Martindale, if Brian Dable can get back into calling the offense, because I don't believe that Mike Kafka is the guy that I would want calling my offense. Like, if they can fix up the coaching, if they can kind of squander around all the leftover players that they have left and just be able to hang in with some of these teams that they have to play this year, they'll be able to pick themselves up and they'll be able to do fine. They just have to utilize the coaching. The coaching has to be able to utilize with what they have and utilize their advantages of what they know they can do and kind of revert back to what they were last year of being a playoff team. So, the Giants are not really a great team right now, but by any means, but they are a team that could fight. And I think if coaching gets everything corrected, they probably could get back to where they were last year if everything does get to be fixed up. So next we want to talk about the defense in this Detroit Lions Atlanta Falcons game. So when you take a look at the Lions, you know that the Lions defenses, have been playing pretty well of this year. What they've been able to do with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, what they were able to do, they struggled against Seattle last week, and then what they were able to do against a very talented run-heavy team of Atlanta and do what they did there. This team is very good. Like, this Lions team and this defense is the best defense that we've seen in the Lions in a very, very long time. I thought this game would have been more of a lower scoring game. I expected Atlanta to kind of get the run game going a little bit. I feel like that's where Detroit kind of has been very, very weak, at least for the last couple of years. But when you take a look at the stats, like Bijan Robinson, a guy that's a first rounder, really didn't do anything that was that productive for this team. And really when he wasn't doing very well, they had to move on to the passing game. And that's where Arthur Smith, that's his last resort as far as the Falcons go. with allowing Desmond Ritter to win games for your team. And what we've seen from Desmond Ritter is exactly what we thought he would be. He's not a very good passer of the football. He's very uncomfortable when he sits in the pocket. He holds onto the ball for way too long. His arm strength is not there, and the only time that he can get good good receivers open is if he scrambles outside of the pocket. Like that's his only regime right there that works for him, and he has to be in the RPO formation to be able to make plays with his feet and be able to throw the ball down the field, and that's just not what this team is built to be around. Like, a pretty good offensive line, receivers that are talented, probably not great. I probably would give him that cut of slack right there. Maybe the receivers aren't as good as people hype them up to be, like Drake London or Kyle Pitts. Maybe they're just not as good as people think they are. But that's really just no excuse, though, really, either, because I feel like they can be something good, especially Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts continues to just not be in existence to this passing game because they just don't give him the ball enough. And I feel like when you drafted Kyle Pitts a couple of years ago, I feel that's just a waste of a pick for a guy that could be going somewhere else and could be doing a lot more bigger and better things already than what he's doing with this particular team. So Desmond Ritter is not the guy that Atlanta or any people were thinking of. I don't see any upside really with him unless if he goes to a team that's going to be willing to work with him and everything like that. I just don't see it there. I feel Atlanta needs to, at some point, I mean, you have to kind of think about who's going to be your quarterback moving forward. Like, if are you going to keep going with this guy for a good while? Are you going to go to Taylor Heineke, which I think would be the better option? We know what we've seen with Taylor Heineke before, and we know he has been a good starter for Washington for those couple of years. We know he's effective, and I feel that if he takes over this team, I feel like this would put the Falcons in a better position to win the division. I think that could help them win in a very, very weak NFC South division. I just don't see Desmond Ritter being that guy for this particular team. Like, after watching his film with the Lions against the Lions this week, it was just very, very, very poor, and that really does concern me as an NFL football fanatic fan. Like, if I was a coach of this team, and I've always given Arthur Smith the benefit of the doubt. I've always thought he was a good offensive coordinator when he was with Tennessee. I've always thought he's always put together the best teams that he possibly could with the talent that he's had under Matt Ryan, under Marcus Mariota, and I feel like he's doing what he can with Desmond Ritter, but how much can you really pull off? Like, if this is kind of like the downward spiral where you started out 2-0 and then now you're kind of making that downward spiral where Desmond Ritter's losing you games, this could be a problem for your season, and this is where you need to kind of question, like, where's your quarterback room looking like, and who do you think is going to win the locker room there? So, I don't want to put Desmond Ritter down, and I don't want to say that he is the worst quarterback in the league, although he's probably at least bottom 5 of the rankings right now, at least. But at the same time, you have to think about your team. You have to think about where this team is going, and you have to think about, like, and we turn to a veteran who's been in it for a while and to help this team get to where their potential is until we find that future guy. That's just my personal opinion there. So, I'm not going to really go too much into it really either, because, I haven't watched enough Atlanta Falcons games yet to really say whether or not this team is good. I think they can be good, but a quarterback change will probably need to happen eventually, though. As for the Lions, they continue to show you that they are a team that's going to be tough to beat going into the rest of the season in terms of division games, in terms of playoffs. And I think this is a very good Lions team that's showing everybody that they're a team that nobody wants to play. Their offense is incredible. When you take a look at the passing game as well, when you take a look at their passing game, it's just absolutely incredible. And it's absolutely crazy to really even think about, too, for a team, a couple of years ago that looked like they were dead in the water. They weren't going to get anywhere, but now they're getting somewhere, and they're actually getting a lot better, and they've gotten better every single year since Jared Goff got there, which is incredible. So the franchise is turning itself around. They had a nice win against Atlanta. Their defense is what really won them this game, so to speak. But, Jared Goff gets the offense going. He commands the offense very well. And they're really going to continue to prove to people on why they are a team that's a force to be reckoned with this year. That's really what it comes down to. And their defense also could be that big factor of why this team ends up being very successful this year. So that's really one way to look at it there. So overall, this game, I don't have a lot of opinions on it, but based off of what I've seen from Atlanta in their quarterback situation, it's just really all that I really have to say about this game as a whole. And okay. So next we have the Chargers and the Vikings game. This game was just absolutely bananas. This was a crazy kind of game. I was not, obviously I expected it to be a high scoring, like passing explosive, like there was so much about this game that I was really expecting that would have exactly happened, and it did. Just didn't go towards the pick that I thought it would have. So, Justin Herbert probably had a career day in this game, throwing for over 400 yards. Keenan Allen is showing the league that he is that guy. He is Justin Herbert's number one receiver, and he can get the job done. And this offense is they've been absolutely incredible this year, this offense. They have not been the issue here. It's always been the defense that hasn't closed out any games that they've played so far, and that's why they lost those first two games in a row. And for them to play a team that's very similar to them with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, for them to actually come out on top and actually say that they actually came up on the winning end of things, it was an incredible feeling right there. So the Vikings, they go to 0-3 now. That's definitely a downward spiral versus what they were last year, winning. They were 11-0 in very one-score close games, and for them to lose 3 straight games in a row, 0-3 right now in one-score games is pretty ironic, so to speak. So both teams are struggling to win games. The Chargers just finally being able to win a very close game like that, which is good for them, good for Justin Herbert. And it definitely keeps Brandon Staley's season alive. it keeps Brandon Staley for having his job at least, in which, I wouldn't be so optimistic in him keeping his job throughout the season, though, because I feel like there is going to be another game where the Chargers are going to blow a lead, and that defense just plays horrible. So, Keenan Allen, a stud, had that huge touchdown pass to Mike Williams. Mike Williams also had him in this game as well. Mike Williams is out for the rest of the year, though, unfortunately. So that number 2 wide receiver spot is wide open now. And I feel that Joshua Palmer is going to step up as that number 2. Maybe Quentin Johnson, the rookie. I don't know. But I kind of would trust more of Joshua Palmer. I feel like he did really well last year. When Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both were out last year, I felt that Joshua Palmer stepped up really big in very key moments when both of these receivers were out for a vast majority of the season. And I feel he's going to go in there and he's going to step up in that role yet again for like a wide receiver 2. And I think he's going to be very effective into the passing game. Austin Eckler, who was out in this game, could be coming back next week. The run game is a little bit concerning, though. Like a lot of other teams ball lately, aka the Raiders, who were a top running team last year. This team, I feel that with Austin Eckler at the helm, when he is out there, they usually do well in the rushing game, but the last couple of weeks has been a little bit, in terms of the ground game, has been kind of dry a little bit, and the only way that Austin Eckler gets himself involved is if Herbert throws the ball to him, and he's involved in the receiving end of things very easily. So their ground game, I feel like they need to fix up a little bit, tune up. The offensive line, I feel, is the best that we've seen Justin Herbert play under And Justin Herbert is just having a career start to his year so far. He hasn't thrown any picks yet. As far as I know, knock on wood, no big turnovers or fumbles that I know of, at least, or anything like that. Like, the offense has just been absolutely incredible this year for the Chargers, and they, it's unfortunate that they've lost those first two games against the Miami Dolphins, who are arguably the number one offense right now, and losing to the bottom five offense for the Tennessee Titans. And for him to play incredible in those two games is, it's crazy to think about that he's lost those two. But it's nice that he was able to get himself back on track. It's great to see that he was able to come out on top finally against a Vikings team that's in an obvious rebuild mode, especially on defense. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about the Chargers, man. I hope they kind of come around. I hope they come together later on in the season, and hopefully they could be a dark horse, as I thought they would have been during the offseason. So this has been a very strange start for the offense, but the offense for this team, but the offense has just been playing incredible. The Vikings, on the other hand, when you watch the Vikings, you know that they could be good. You know they should be winning some of these games. Maybe this could have been one of those games that they should have probably won. But again, defense falls. Kirk Cousins plays like Kirk Cousins in those last final minutes of the game and fourth quarters and everything of that nature. And the Vikings still struggling to run the football too. I feel that they're so lost without Dalvin Cook that Alexander Mattison is not trustworthy in terms of carrying the full load for the ground game. And that's why they kind of traded up to get Cam Akers. And I don't know if Cam Akers really is any better for this team. I really don't think they're that much better than that. He's really that much better than what they have right now in Alexander Mattison. I don't see it right now. So, both teams have been struggling to run the ball. Both teams that have Chargers have a good defense on paper, but just not very good coached wise. And then as the reverse, they have a very good coach for the Vikings as a defensive coordinator, but no talent on that other side whatsoever. So kind of works out in those kind of categories. But the Vikings will need to start winning some games if they want to be close in that NFC North, like second place, maybe a wild card spot, because I feel that their offense is good enough to be able to go to the playoffs. Their defense is just so bad. So if they fix up on that defense, they could get there. And same with the Chargers. If they can overcome injuries, if they can overcome coaching, and the defense plays to where they're supposed to be playing, they could also be a dark horse for the playoffs and probably could even compete for a Super Bowl, because I feel like they can, when their offense is in sync and they can get the ball rolling, like I feel they can beat pretty much anybody in the AFC. I really do. So that's how I feel about this game right there. It was a good overall game. Great to see Justin Herbert have a comeback win and finally win a game after losing some last year, some really rough ones and early season ones. So that was nice for him to see. And maybe Kirk Cousins will follow up on that, going into next week, depending on who they play, which I actually don't know. Haven't really looked too much in terms of who's playing who next week. So, all right, next game we're gonna talk about this one, and it's the Saints and the Packers game. Now, this was one of the games that I was kind of looking back and forth on when I was I was at my girlfriend Lindsay's house watching football this weekend. This was one of the games that was on because all of our teams, I'm a Giants fan. Her brother-in-law is a 49ers fan. Her mom's a Steelers fan. And her sister's an Eagles fan. And, Lindsay, my girlfriend, just kind of falls in with the Steelers because of her mom and everything. So all of our teams weren't either playing, that night, or they were playing later, or playing tomorrow night, that sort of thing. So we kind of just were clicking back and forth on games that were being played. And this was one of the games that was being played on Fox, the Packers and the Saints. So based off of what we were watching, based off of this game and when we were clicking back and forth on it, the Saints looked like they had good control of this, based off of the first half. They were able to do whatever they wanted to. They Derek Carr was able to pass the ball wherever he wanted to. He was able to complete a touchdown pass to Jimmy Graham, which was probably the first one he's had in quite some time. And then you had Rashid Shaheed, however you pronounce his first name. I don't really know per se, but regardless, though, giving up a touchdown for the Packers on a punt return, big touchdown pass to Jimmy Graham, and then a field goal. Like, it looked like the Packers were struggling. And obviously the Packers without Christian Watson, without Aaron Jones, and without Jair Alexander, like without some of their key players, and David Bakhtiari, the left tackle, without all of these key players on this team this weekend, the Packers looked like they were dead in the water, and it clearly showed that they were missing all of those star players that are very effective to this team and their winning culture. And the Saints were taking advantage of that all throughout. And like I said, they were able to do whatever they wanted to. They were out with Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams was not able to play in this game, but with Derek Carr being able to throw the ball down the field, he was able to do what he needed to do. The offensive line wasn't terrible, wasn't great, but wasn't terrible. Receivers were good in this case, but then when you go into the second half, you're up 17-0. You kind of feel like you're in on the right track, and you feel like you're ready to go, and you can keep on winning and doing all those things and keep scoring the way that you're scoring, and then that kind of just went south real quick. And the reason why is behind that was because of this tackle, as you see right here on Derek Carr. Derek Carr was tackled here. I believe this looked like it was a sack, and Derek Carr was taken into the locker room and had to look for his X-ray for his shoulder. So Derek Carr out the rest of the game. That means Jameis Winston as the backup. He was a backup under Drew Brees. He was a starter after Drew Brees retired, then became a starter before bench for Andy Dalton. So, Jameis Winston's had some time. He has some experience in football, so he, you can tell that he was ready to go in there and make some big plays, and he was able to do that. Kind of do what he needed to do on this field, but Jameis Winston didn't get him to any touchdown ever again. So they were blanked after winning this game 17-0 at half. They just weren't able to do it all over again. And so Jordan Love, as who we projected that he would have been for this team this year, he was able to go in there and carry this team on his back. When you watch the first half and then you watch the second half, it was like watching night and day. And Jordan Love took advantage of all the things that he needed to do. He understood that there was no Christian Watson. He knew that there was no Aaron Jones. So he kind of took the team on his back and was able to get them to an 18-17 win by throwing, a touchdown, rushing in for a touchdown, going in on a 2-point conversion, going on that to win the game. Jordan Love took this team on his back and was able to carry them to a nice big victory. This is what Aaron Rodgers was doing when he was playing for the Packers. So that talent and still be able to win a game after losing, in the half 17-0. That's something worth to be talking about, especially for a team that we really didn't know what they were going to be like this year after Aaron Rodgers left. We didn't know how Jordan Love was. We didn't see enough of him play. We know he's a first rounder, and we know that there are definitely flashes in him, but we just didn't know how he was going to be. And I got to say, Jordan Love has been playing really well for the Packers, and I feel like he's exactly what I thought he was going to be for this team this year. I didn't think they would have already had this many wins under their belt already, 2 wins to be exact. I thought there would have been, at least 1-2 or 0-3 really at the absolute worst to start the season. They're pulling off some big wins. They beat the Bears. They probably should have beaten the Falcons. This team could be 3-0 right now. But the fact of the matter is they're not. They're 2-1, but they're playing very hardcore physical football that we we weren't really expecting to see this year from the Packers. We kind of thought this would have been those years where Jordan Love would have taken some time to get used to Matt LaFleur, in this offense, and he probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere right away. But he's just been doing just fine. Like, I think Jordan Love is showing everybody that he is worth the first round pick that he was back in 2020, and Aaron Rodgers mentored him those couple of years, those 3 years behind him, and was able to watch and learn a lot from him. And now his time has come, and now he's already playing just like the way that Aaron Rodgers did back when he was in Green Bay. Do I think Jordan Love will be like Aaron Rodgers? Do I think that he can win a Super Bowl like Aaron Rodgers? Do I think that he can play and have that mentality like him? I don't want to go too far about the mentality part, but I think there is a good chance that he could, at the end of the day, could be a Super Bowl champ. There could be a day where he could be a Super Bowl runner-up. I think he can be a Pro Bowler. I think there's a lot of factors that he could have a lot of Aaron Rodgers-like attributes. So I do believe that he could be just as good as Aaron Rodgers, as long as the team is behind him, as long as the franchise keeps working around him. Like, there are definitely things that I can see him actually being, the long-term answer for this team, and could be very successful at the end of the day. So, when you look at it from that perspective, it's a really cool thing to see a guy that, is following the same toes as what Aaron Rodgers did. He sat behind Brett Favre for a few years before getting the start. Now Jordan Love did the same thing when he was behind Aaron Rodgers and learned for a few years. And now he's being able to play, and he's been able to pick up a lot of what Aaron Rodgers did during his time in Green Bay. And that's really shown a lot. So I really do think the Packers are a lot better than what people think. I really do. And I think they're going to continue to show to people why they deserve to be one of the teams that makes it to the playoffs, and why they are a dark horse. As for the Saints, though, as far as the Saints go, not a bad team overall, but they're not a favorite team to kind of do anything this season. And even if they do win the NFC South, I don't really project them to really go past the wild card. I think their defense has been fine, but their offense, in terms of the way the offensive line protects Derek Carr and the way Derek Carr plays, that's kind of the factor of why I can't really say how good or bad the Saints will be moving forward during the season, because we just don't know what side of the offense we're going to see, because I feel that their receivers are definitely elite. They're one of the best receiving cores of Chris Olave. When Michael Thomas is in there, he's really good too. So their receiving core is excellent. It's just it's a matter of the way that Derek Carr plays and that sort of thing. So, both teams have a lot to prove this year, but I think the Packers are on a good track, though. I really do. And then, speaking of another young quarterback that's on the right track, C.J. Stroud. I don't know if anybody really saw C.J. Stroud having as nice of a season, or a nice start to a season as I thought he was going to. Like, I've said all offseason, like, watch out for the Texans. Watch out for the Texans. They're going to be a team that's going to be tough to beat during the season. They're going to be a team that's going to come on later on in the season, and they're going to shock some people and continue to grow really well in the next couple of years. And I feel that this is already a team that's already showing like they're ready to win some big-time games. And the way that they came out and played against Jacksonville, and the way that they went in there and handed that loss to Jacksonville in Jacksonville, is quite impressive for a rookie. So I feel C.J. Stroud had probably, out of all the rookie quarterbacks like Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud has been the most consistent, in my opinion. I think C.J. Stroud is the most athletic. I think his arm talent is incredible. His accuracy is incredible. His arm strength is by far the best arm strength that we've seen in a rookie quarterback so far this year. There's just a lot of things that I love about C.J. Stroud that makes me say that the Texans are playing, tough, and they're going to continue to play tough. And for them to score 37 points with that offense, like, I want you to think about that for a second. I want you to think about the offense and the talent that is around CJ Stroud right now. Okay. You got Dell right here. Okay. The rookie. You have Dell. You have Robert Woods, Dalton Schultz. You have Nico Collins, Damian Pierce in the back, Devin Singletary. Tell me which one of those players has been productive for CJ Stroud. And you let me know in the comments down below, because there has not been very many of these receivers or tight ends for that matter, or running backs that have been productive at all for CJ Stroud, except for, you guessed it, Dell is the only one that I've seen, at least for this weekend, that has gone in there and been able to take command of the passing game for CJ Stroud. So, with all that being said, this offense, not a very good offense, but the quarterback himself in CJ Stroud has been playing phenomenally. And for him to, have this season record right now of 1-2, obviously, not one of the best things that, you don't want to start out your season 1-2. You want to be able to keep winning on games and everything like that, which is something that I think the Texans will pick up a couple more wins. I think they're going to be better than what they were last year. But you have to give credit where credit is due to CJ Stroud. Like, he just played in this game unbelievably well. And that just goes to show you about Jacksonville and their exposure. Like, I understand Jacksonville was supposed to be good. I understand that they were supposed to be a team that, there was going to be a dark horse. They would have competed with teams like Kansas City or Buffalo, Cincinnati, Baltimore, like all those teams. But, with Jacksonville, their only win right now against the Colts, a division game. You lose to the Chiefs 17-9. You play, that's a defensive kind of game right there, and you don't beat them on your home turf. And then you go here and you play a division rival who hasn't won a game yet, and that's the Texans, and you get slaughtered by them 37-17. That's absolutely crazy. Like, Jacksonville, like, what's going on there, guys? Like, you got to get yourself back on track. You got to be able to win some of these games. If you want to win Super Bowls, you want to be able to say that you are a dark horse for this team, like, for this division, for this league, you have to be able to win these games. And, obviously losing to Kansas City was a one that was kind of expected, but for you to go out there and lose to the Texans, and you give up 37 points to an offense that's really not great on paper, that's pretty embarrassing. Just being honest with you, really, right there. But Jacksonville, they have some talent on there. They're struggling right now to kind of get things going, but they're going to get themselves better. They'll get going eventually. But I think this is right now, the time where, if you lose to the Texans already, and if the Texans don't win many more games after this one, you are losing chances of, respect in terms of going to the Super Bowl and being a dark horse for the playoffs and everything like that. Like, that's just me being completely honest with you. So, this is a game that was supposed to be a get-right game for Jacksonville, but it looks like that it's probably going to have to wait for at least another week. But this was a statement win for CJ Stroud, no question about it. This is a game that I feel like is going to get better and better and better. This is a team that's going to get better throughout the season, and they could win a lot more games than we thought they would have all season long. So, beyond the run with the Texans, because I think they're here to stay, and I think they're here to go ahead and make some noise. And another team that's here to make some noise is the Miami Dolphins. They scored 70 points. Yes, 70 points. 7-0. You guys got it right. You heard it correctly from Kevin Harlan, who was calling the game. Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane has been, this run game for the Dolphins proves that you don't need to just pass the ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They can also run the ball too. They have a lot of speed there too. This is the fastest team in the NFL right now. This is also the best offense right now that we're looking at in the NFL right now. And when you watch them play against teams like the Chargers, when you watch them play against the Broncos, these defenses that they've faced so far have been very, very bad. Their only most competitive one that really has kept them in line was New England, and that was probably a game New England should have won. But you take a look at this Miami offense, and you just go in there and you just say, like, wow, this Miami team is just so good. Like, they look so fast when they're out there on the field. And that's definitely the case right there for the Dolphins. Tua has been playing lights out football, getting everything going. The offensive line has been doing a good job with protecting him. Obviously, the receivers of Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, the tight ends kind of getting involved there too. But I also like that their run game has also improved vastly from last year, which was a struggle for them last year. And I think their running game is going to be even better this year. And I think they're going to be a lot more explosive on the ground. So if they can't get the passing game going, I think their run game will be able to fluctuate with the passing game. So yeah, and their defense also played incredible too. I mean, this is a team that I think right now, I probably wouldn't have said it in the offseason. I thought they were an overrated team, but I'm kind of jumping on that bandwagon now with Aaron Rodgers out for the season in that division. You know, the Bills kind of, getting back on track. They're trying to get back on track, but, Josh Allen's still having some issues with turnovers and that sort of thing and play calling there in Buffalo. And then you have New England that's still trying to find their new identity after the Tom Brady era. I would not be shocked if the Dolphins came out on top and they won the division and go to the Super Bowl. And if they go to the Super Bowl, I feel like they're going to go in there and they're going to absolutely wreck whoever they play in the Super Bowl as of right now, at least. Maybe their only threat probably would be the 49ers. That would be a tough game there, right there with Kyle Shanahan and everything like that. But this team is a Super Bowl winning team right now based off of what we saw on Sunday. I think their offense just looked absolutely incredible. They're ready to make some noise. And I think this is going to be a very high explosive team this year in the NFL. And they're going to go in there and they're just going to absolutely blow up the entire league with what they can do on offense. That's just how good they've been so far this season. Now you take a look at the Broncos. There's not much to really talk about the Broncos except they just absolutely stink. No question about it. They just absolutely positively they stink. And Sean Payton, as I've always said, the first couple of weeks, Sean Payton's eating his words now. I feel like now that with him saying that he is, that he was blaming Nathaniel Hackett for how the game was last year, how this team played and everything like that. I feel like Sean Payton is absolutely eating his words now, and he's being exposed now as the coach that can't even fix this team or save this team or Russell Wilson's career from tanking. This team is just very bad all around right now. Defensively, they got a lot worse than what they were. I don't know what happened there. They can't score on offense, although Russell Wilson played, despite giving up 70 points, I thought Russell Wilson played quite well in this game. Not going to lie, I thought he played quite well. He threw for over 300 yards, a touchdown pass to Cortland Sutton, an interception there. So I feel Russell Wilson was not the problem, and I don't think he's really as much of the problem this year as he was last year, whereas more of it's the team as a whole that can't figure out how to play as one. So, maybe it is a little bit of an overhype for the Dolphins, but besides that, though, the Dolphins are a high exploding offense in this entire league, and they're going to go in there and show everybody why they are good enough to win a Super Bowl. All right, next, I don't want to talk about this game too much. I didn't get a chance to watch it too much, but actually here, I'm going to take a sip of my water real quick. While I'm doing that, please be sure to drop a like on this video and hit that subscribe button to help the channel grow to be bigger and better than what it is already. So just give me 1 second, folks. Okay, so the Titans and the Browns. Not much to say about this game except the Titans offense. We knew how they were going to be going into week 1. We know they weren't good last year. Last week they came in week 2 and it was a fluky game kind of game for them, and they came out on top against the Chargers there because their defense held up and the Chargers defense was not able to close out that game. So the Titans, are back to earth. 3 points against the Browns. This Browns forefront, defensive line, corners. What can I tell you about this Browns team? I think this is the best Browns defense that I probably have seen in a very, very long time. They are a scary unit to play against. You're going up against the Tennessee Titans offense, and the Titans offensive line is absolutely putrid. Their offense itself is also very putrid. Derrick Henry couldn't even get anything started. DeAndre Hopkins, I don't know what's going on with him, but I knew this was going to be a problem when they signed for him. He's not doing anything to help this offense out at all, and even for Ryan Tannehill. So I can't believe I just can't even get over myself in terms of how good the Browns are on defense. I just can't get over the Bengals. They shut them down to 3 points. They probably could have shut down. They were giving problems to the Steelers too, although they lost to the Steelers. And then now they're giving problems to the Titans. Guys, this defense for the Browns is just really good. The offense for the Browns, they have some things to figure out without Nick Chubb for the rest of the year. So that's going to hurt a little bit. But Deshaun Watson, you can't deny that he had his best game of his, Browns career so far, at least. And at least for this season, too. He put up some nice numbers for the Browns and got Amari Cooper involved, too, which is, arguably his number one receiver for this team. And without Nick Chubb in this team, you can utilize Jerome Ford, you can utilize Kareem Hunt, who you just signed off of free agency, and you can still be a dark horse for a Super Bowl run. You can still be a team that's very competitive within the AFC North. This team is very, very good. Their defense, when they play against the Ravens next week, I'm telling you, they're going to give the Ravens a lot of problems on defense. The Ravens struggling to win games right now, because of all those injuries that they're having. And, of course, with J.K. Dobbins and his Achilles tear, out for the rest of the year, too. Their run game is non-existent. So, yeah, this team is going to give the Browns a lot of problems. I think the Browns team is going to give the Ravens a lot of problems. And I think they're good enough. I think they're even better than the Ravens right now. And I think they're going to go out there and they're going to shock the Ravens and beat them next week. That's just an opinion of mine, which I think is going to happen for sure. Especially if they're playing at home, which they are. They're going to go in there and they're going to give the Ravens a lot of problems. The Titans, on the other hand, they have to go in and play Cincinnati next week. That's not going to be an easy game. We'll talk about Cincinnati in a bit, but that's going to be a really, really hard game for Tennessee to go in there and have a bounce-back game after only scoring 3 points against a Browns defense that's absolutely stacked right now. They're going to go into against Cincinnati next week, and they're going to find that same problem, too, that they're not going to be able to score very many points against them either. So the Titans season is, going to be a very long and weird one. But the Browns, on the other hand, they'll get some things figured out. I think they're one of the top teams in the NFL right now, especially because of that defense. And if Deshaun Watson can play 2018, 2019 Deshaun Watson and 2020 Deshaun Watson, I think he will be just fine too, as long as he can just kind of keep himself in trouble, keep his emotions composed and that sort of thing too. Because if he's not doing any of those things, it could also be another long season for the Browns too, and they could go an up and down roller coaster and not very consistent. So this game, not going to talk about it too much, but we know Sam Howell, starting for the Commanders. This was a tough game for him against the Bills. Bills, had 4 interceptions on the day for this. Josh Allen had a touchdown pass and a pick in this particular game. He also rushed in for a touchdown as well. So, the Bills, they're kind of getting back on track. Their defense is actually doing pretty well. They've been playing well. But they're a team that still has to be able to beat good teams like the Chiefs and the Bengals. And that time will be told. They have to play Miami next week, which will be one of the biggest games of the week. So we'll see how they match up against this Miami's explosive offense. We'll just see how that's going to go. And as for the Commanders, expected that they were going to come back down to earth, expected that they were going to lose this game. But I thought the way that Sam Howell was playing, I thought they would have been at least a little more competitive, but they weren't. And, it happens. You're playing a tough defense right there. You're playing Josh Allen. That's not easy. So we'll cut them some slack there, but they got to come back next week, and they got to play again next week, and they have to play against the Eagles. So they could be going 2-2, or they could be going 3-1 too, because the Eagles also have not been very consistent offensively either this year. Next, we got the Ravens and the Colts. The Colts, what can I say about the Colts, guys? I mean, yeah, they're not a great team, but they're sure of a lot better than what we thought they were. Uh, you know, Given the injury, no Anthony Richardson in this game, so it was Gardner Minshew that came in. And Gardner Minshew Mania, what can I tell you guys? He played phenomenal in this game. He played very well against a Ravens secondary and a Ravens team that's struggling to, win games now with all these injuries going on right now. A couple calls that were made in this game, it was more or less in the overtime period. I know Lamar Jackson was kind of frustrated. I know the whole Ravens stadium was frustrated too that there was no PI called on that 4th and 3 pass where Lamar tried to get the ball out to one of his receivers and he wasn't able to catch it because of the secondary was there in time. So, very questionable call there in terms of that. But the Colts also went for it on 4th down and they couldn't convert. And the Ravens also followed up with that same scenario there, with what we just talked about. So it was kind of getting back and forth. Justin Tucker missing that 60-plus yarder was also a big blow for them too, and that's what also cost them the game too. But the Colts came in and they won this game 22-19. It was in overtime. But this was a very really crazy ending to a game. Let's just be honest there. This game was absolutely crazy at the end where it looked like the Colts were going to win at one point. The Ravens were moving the ball well, and they looked like they were going to go down there and score and get a field goal with Justin Tucker. That's really all they needed. But it ended up being the Colts going for a field goal after all. And with a consistent passing game and a consistent run game going on there with Zach Moss, the Colts are a lot better than what we thought they were going to be during the season. I think they're 100% already better than the Colts team that was of last year with under Matt Ryan and Sam Ellinger and Nick Foles. I feel like this team is so much better than that team. So I think when that time Anthony Richardson does come back, they're going to go in there and they're going to shock some teams and be able to win some games, more games than what we thought they were going to win this year, especially we weren't expecting them to go into Baltimore and beat them the way that they did. But hey, two straight wins there in a row against two quality opponents. The Texans, you go in there, it's a divisional game, and then you go in there and you play against the Ravens, a pretty good, a playoff team from a year ago. Like, you guys are off to a pretty good start, and I think the Colts will find a way eventually to get themselves better, during the season. And then you take a look at the Ravens, too. The Ravens are the Ravens. Great team on paper every year, but they always fall apart in the end, and it's all due to injuries. So they got to be able to figure out how they're going to overcome all those adversities to injuries. And especially, if Lamar Jackson is out, if he ever gets injured again, you got to be able to learn how to win games without him, too. I don't think Tyler Huntley is winning you any of those games that Lamar misses this year. I don't see it. All right, next game we got is 15 straight for Bill Belichick. The Patriots went in. They were in East Rutherford, New Jersey at MetLife Stadium on a rainy Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock to play against the Jets. They won this game 15-10 was the final score, and it was a straight 15 win for the Patriots against the Jets. And the Jets still have yet to figure out a way to beat Bill Belichick under this new regime and this new era now under, without Tom Brady here. So the Jets, what can I say about the Jets, guys? I mean, right now they're looking for, based off of what rumors have it, they're looking for a quarterback that's going to be able to take them to at least the playoffs. The Jets defense is incredible. We know that. We've known that forever. But the offense just, Zach Wilson's just not the guy. He can't get anything started. There's no consistent pass game. And the run game is also a big issue, too. Dalvin Cook hasn't been able to muster any yards, and Bryce Young is also struggling. Not Bryce Young, I'm sorry. Brees Hall is also struggling to win some games there, too. Being able to score since the Buffalo game. So their run game is also a big question, and so is their passing game as well. Excuse me 1 second. But as far as, the Patriots go, I mean, we know their defense is very good. We don't need to really go into too much detail on that. We know their offense is a little bit lacking, but I think it's a lot better than what it was last year. To getting to that tight end Brown, to go all the way down there and score that touchdown, that was the biggest play of the whole game. Like, if the Patriots didn't, if the Jets did not give up that whole entire run right there and that touchdown, this would have been a completely different game, and the Jets would have been able to probably hold on to this game as well and not have really worried as much. But, they gave up that big touchdown, and that was really the biggest difference maker because neither team was really able to get down to their opponent's territory ever again at that point. They just weren't able to get down there again and be able to score touchdowns. Like they struggled to get into the red zone, and the Jets did as well. So, that touchdown was a big difference. That big touchdown there was a big difference for, that Patriots win. So, the offense has a lot of questions, though, for the Patriots. So I think they're a lot better. But I think in terms of receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster, I have no idea what he's doing, but he has not done anything for this team yet. Kendrick Bourne, continues to get the shadow a little bit. Not many players, not many coaches really involve him enough in like those big key moments right there. I think they're utilizing him more than what they did last year, but I think they need to get him more involved in there too. Especially if you're kind of running like that similar way of how Kadarius Toney is used. Like, Kendrick Bourne can be used as that kind of way too. Then you have Hunter Henry, who's also a good tight end. You have a good run game of Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke Elliott, who's also with the Patriots now. So, your offense is pretty good, honestly. Like, their offense is good. They just aren't consistent yet. And I think they will be over time. I think it's going to take them, a little bit to adjust. I know next week that they believe they play the Cowboys next week, and I know they're not going to win that game. We'll just be honest right there. I don't think they're going to win that game. Although Dallas has lost, they already lost this weekend, so you never really do know. But the Patriots will get themselves back together, and the Jets, as long as Zach Wilson doesn't turn the ball over and the defense plays lights out defense, like they could probably sneak away with a couple of wins. Like they could sneak away with a couple more wins than what they did last year. But that's also a big stretch there too. They could probably win some games, but it's a little bit of a stretch right there too. But yeah, I like this game. I thought this was a pretty good, low scoring game. It was something that I kind of thought was going to happen. I enjoyed like those low scoring defensive kind of games because it kind of gives you like an idea of like, which team is going to be able to score next, who's going to break who. So, for me, it's entertaining to watch like these defensive kind of games. But whereas like other people probably would get bored from them because not much action going on. And as far as turnovers go, there really wasn't that many. There really wasn't any turnovers in this game either by either quarterback, Mac Jones or Zach Wilson. So, if Zach Wilson doesn't make like those turnover mistakes and boneheaded decisions with the football like he did last year, they can sneak away with some wins on this defense if they all consistently play well and stay healthy. So like I've said, the Jets as a top 3 defense this year can compete with anybody in the league. Just needs to allow, the offense needs to allow themselves to not commit to any big time, plays where they're going to, give up some scores or give up the football so easily. So, so the Patriots win 15th straight. We'll see if they continue that winning way to the Cowboys, but that's also a big stretch there too. And that could also, if they don't beat the Cowboys, that's also going to be in question of how the rest of their season will go. So that's that on that game. So next game here, not much to talk about. The Panthers What can I say? Not playing very well. Andy Dalton played in this game. Looked a little bit more competent, but they also played against the Seahawks, and their defenses also not very good. So not much to really say about the Panthers. They're in full rebuild mode right now. We'll see if they can kind of get back on track and maybe win a game at some point, maybe. But that's also kind of a stretch there too. But yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting on how this game went. The Seahawks, Kenneth Walker is Kenneth Walker. Big monster game in this game. Geno Smith also played a pretty nice game too, despite having like some early struggles with the interceptions and everything like that. But for the most part, played well, got the team going, got the offense going, got the passing game effective and up and running and everything. So, the Seahawks are a better team than what we give them credit for, and I really do stand by that. They'll continue to get better. It's going to take a little bit for that defense to kind of slow down because their defense gives up so many points and many big plays. And so they'll take a little bit to get gelled up and ready to go, but eventually they're going to get themselves going and they'll get better. So, but again, the Panthers, we'll go back to the Panthers. They're just not a very good team. All right, another game I don't want to spend too much time on, the Chiefs and the Bears. Taylor Swift was at this game. As you all know, Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce now, who got a touchdown for the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes, he won this game for them. He threw a lot of touchdown passes. Jerick McKinnon was involved. Isaiah Pacheco. Bears, Justin Fields, he stinks. Defense stinks. They lost. They gave up 41 points. Yeah, that's really it. That's all I got to say on that game. Upset alert in the desert. So, the Cardinals. Let's talk about the Cardinals real quick. So, a team that we all thought was going to be very bad this year, including myself. A team that we thought they were going to be dead last in every category in the NFL this year. A team that we thought that was going to be wanting to get the number one pick overall and go ahead and get someone like a Caleb Williams or someone like that. So, or Marcus Harrison or whatever his name is. So, we thought that was going to happen. And, you come in here, you beat the best pass rush in the NFL. You go in there and you go in there and you get Dak Prescott. You intercept him at the end of the play. You're a good team. Well, not a good team, but you're a fun team to watch, and you beat the Cowboys. So, and that was the Cardinals. You came in there. They came in there and they beat the Cowboys 28-16. Josh Dobbs has been having a fun field day out there on the field. The Cardinals were able to do whatever they wanted to. If they wanted to run the ball, they ran the ball. If they wanted to pass the ball, they passed the ball. The Cardinals, not a great team overall. And they were without Budda Baker. And that hurts too. But, you're also out without DeAndre Hopkins. You don't have him anymore. You don't have Kyler Murray playing for you right now because of that injury. But it doesn't all matter, though. I mean, you found a way to win, and you were able to beat the Cowboys the way that you did. And that's impressive. You beat a really good team this year, a team that is poised for a Super Bowl run. So what happened to the Cowboys in this game? Well, a lot of factors. One, Trayvon Diggs is out for the rest of the year with a torn ACL. That hurts a lot. But their pass rush wasn't there. Like they were the first 2 weeks. They got involved with the Giants. They were able to destroy the Giants. They destroyed the Jets. And they just could not get anything started. They couldn't get any pressure on Josh Dobbs. And they gave up 28 points to them. That's the most points that they've given up so far this season. And they could be one of those only times where they do give up that many points, to be honest with you, because of how good that defense really is. And then the offense is just what we thought the offense was going to kind of be like a little bit. Let the defense kind of win your games and everything. Dak Prescott, turning the ball over and, having some turnovers there and turnover on downs and Tony Pollard and, getting some big plays in there too. And CD Lamb not really having the greatest day of your life either. The Cowboys kind of came in there and they kind of got cocky. They thought they were going to win and they ended up getting upset. That's just the way of how the cookie crumbles. So, are the Cowboys frauds? That's a big question mark right now. That's a big question for anybody to ask about right now. So, do I think they are washed. Do I think they are done for the season? Do I think they're going to lose the rest of the season? No, I still think the Cowboys are one of the best teams in the NFL. I think they had an extremely off day and lost to a team that was supposed to be the worst in the NFL in the Cardinals. But that happens. Sometimes some teams loses to, like the Rams lost to a winless Jets team at one point. So it does happen. It's not unheard of. And they will get themselves back on track. Just the fact of the matter is that now that the Cardinals beat them, and then depending on how the rest of their schedule goes the rest of the year, I feel like a lot of team will go in there and think that they can go in there and beat, the Cowboys in their way that they did. So, like, for example, the Patriots, it's a winnable game. It's a game that the Cowboys should win. But, again, Bill Belichick could find a way to lose to the Cowboys. Or Bill Belichick could find a way to beat the Cowboys on his defense because the offense and Dak Prescott is not consistent always. Like, some of those things could happen. They really just could happen. You never really do know. So the Cowboys could be a beatable team, but it just all depends on how they play, and it depends on how Dak plays. It depends on how Mike McCarthy coaches, and how the defense also plays too, and how they're going to move past Trayvon Diggs being out for the rest of the year. All right, next game, the Raiders and the Steelers. I watched this game from start to finish, and this was by far the worst Jimmy Garoppolo game I've watched in his career. Threw 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, and 2 of those touchdowns came down to Davante Adams. So Davante Adams had a very, very excellent game against this, Steelers defense. But Jimmy Garoppolo, on the other hand, did not play very well in this game, despite throwing for 324 yards. But the reason why he was able to win by that much, was able to throw and be able to score that many yards, was because of one thing: Davante Adams. The Raiders still can't run the ball very consistently. I don't know what's going on right there with the Raiders. They can't run the ball very well. Defensively, they were playing well up until a certain point, and they started kind of giving up some points. Jacoby Myers, slot receiver right there. Josh Jacobs getting involved in the passing effect. But you don't see any tight ends get involved. You don't see Hunter Renfrow, who's another slot receiver for this team, get involved at all. So you have all this talent, but you're not using them all the way that you should be using them. So, the thing that kind of bothers me about the Raiders of this year is, at least from this perspective in this game, like, that whole reason to get Jimmy Garoppolo was because he was going to win you some games, because he was coached under Josh McDaniels in New England, and because he was, working with slot receivers better, and, he's a consistent winning quarterback, unlike Derek Carr. And they thought Derek Carr was the problem. Mark Davis, the owner, thought Derek Carr was the problem, and that's why they traded him away. Now you kind of take a look at it, and I've been saying it for a long time too. Derek Carr was not the problem for the Raiders. It was the organization, and it continues to be the organization. You listen to Davante Adams and what he says about this organization, people would open their eyes and say, yeah, this wasn't Derek Carr's fault. So Jimmy Garoppolo, on the other hand, threw this game away and threw it to the Steelers. And, when you kind of watch Jimmy Garoppolo play, like, you know what you're going to get out of him. He doesn't really scare you in terms of, like, a deep threat. He doesn't throw the ball very deep, and he's not a very good deep thrower of the football. We understand that, but he sits in the pocket for a long time. And he only finds at least his only main target at least for this particular game, that he felt the most comfortable throwing to, and understood that it was his best player and wanted to utilize him. It was Davante Adams, or he would throw the ball to Jacoby Myers. Like, this whole entire game was throwing the ball to either Davante Adams or Jacoby Myers or Adams, Myers, and so on. And Josh Jacobs really didn't get involved that much in the passing game until, like, the second half of it. And Hunter Renfrow only had 2 catches. Amir Abdullah got involved a little bit. Then you had DeAndre Carter, who was from the Chargers last year, that only got in and was able to only catch 1 ball there. And then you have a good tight end, Michael Mayer, that you haven't used yet. And you have Austin Hooper as well that could also help out as well. So I don't really quite understand why this team isn't playing where they should be, or why their offense isn't playing as well as they should be, given the talent that they are given for this team. So I don't really know what's going on there. And as much as I like Josh McDaniels, as much as I think he's been kind of overshadowed as a head coach, he was also a reason. Him and Jimmy Garoppolo were the reasons why the Raiders lost this game. Was because of one, because Jimmy Garoppolo threw 3 picks to the other team, and they were like, terrible picks that he threw. Like, they weren't even like remotely close to any of the receivers he was attending to at all. But, Josh McDaniels coaching this game was more of like him looking at like a McDonald's menu and saying like, yeah, we're just going to go for the field goal instead of trying to tie the game all up, and understanding that we have like over 2.5 minutes left to play the game and we have all of our timeouts still. So yeah, we're just going to kick the field goal. Like, that didn't make any sense at all. Like, why would you go for a field goal? You understand that you're down by 8. All you have to do is go down there and get a touchdown. That's going to put your score to being a lot closer. And if you get the 2-point conversion, you're tied. And the Steelers at that point weren't really able to move the ball on you much on your defense. And and even if you were to have missed the 2-point conversion, at least you could have said at least you tried, and you would have gotten a field goal and you could have won the game in that respect. So I don't get it. I didn't get that call at all. But that's going to be a call that Raiders fans are going to talk about for a very long time. Football fanatics, media, everybody's going to be talking about that call for a very, very long time. And I think it's rightfully so, because you shouldn't have called for a field goal. It was a touchdown time. You had a tough time this entire game to move the ball down the field, and you neglected to go for that big push there at the end. And I think it was just a lack of confidence in Jimmy Garoppolo. So to me, that just didn't make a lot of sense of why you would go for a field goal right there when you have to get a touchdown and you got to try for a 2-point conversion to tie the game up. The Steelers, on the other hand, the Steelers defense always plays the way that they should play. Their defense played phenomenal. And their offense played pretty good too. Kenny Pickett had a good game in this game. Had some big throws to George Pickens. Had that big one to Calvin Austin. So they've had some players that really did step up in this game. Just like with the Raiders and Josh Jacobs, the Steelers still have yet to run the ball efficiently under Najee Harris or Jalen Warren. So yeah, that's really the only kind of factors I have there for the Steelers, except they played well. They just didn't always execute well as that they really should have. But their offense played considerably well. Kenny Pickett played well. I think Kenny Pickett is going to have some days where it's going to be probably not a very good day for him, but that happens with everybody. But it was a good Steelers win. Good for them to get that win, but the Raiders had every opportunities at that end of the game to make it more interesting, and they just didn't want to. I didn't get to put pictures in these last 2 games because I ended up falling asleep and getting tired. So I just don't want to say too much about the Monday night games, but I'll say about the Tampa Bay and the Philly game. That was a good game right there. That was a really good Philly game right there. And, hold on one second. Jalen Hurts, despite not really having a consistent pass game, their rushing attack has been pretty good this year. Not going to lie. Their rushing attack has been good, and I think DeAndre Swift has been a big upgrade over Miles Sanders by like a mile, because I don't think Miles Sanders really played all that great last year, and he's still not playing great under Carolina either. So I feel like this was a very good start to for the rushing attack in the run game for the Eagles this year. I feel like they've been consistent. They've been able to run the ball, and they ran the ball pretty well on the Tampa Bay defense. Like, that defense right there was, for quite a few years, it was the number 1 run defense in the NFL. That nobody could run the ball on them at all. And for them to be able to run like that against a very quality defensive line like Tampa Bay and rush over 130 yards, that's incredible. So DeAndre Swift definitely deserves a lot of praise and hopes, for the way that he played against the Bucks that way. And then you take a look at the Bucks side. Baker Mayfield banged up with his shoulder. Still being able to sling the ball down the field though a lot. Trust his old reliable of Mike Evans, who's still a beast, and Chris Godwin got involved in there too. But their run game is still not there either. Rachaad White only had 38 yards for 14 carries, and then Rachaad White was able to catch the ball 3 times and run it for 24 yards, and that was tough. That was really tough to see. And knowing Tampa Bay already, that they're not a very good run team right there. They're mostly into their passing game. So hopefully they'll get the run game eventually. I think Rachaad White could be something good. He could be effective in this league. It's just more of the way of like how Todd Bowles is going to get the run game going. How is the offensive line going to open up some big holes for him to be able to make the big runs? So that's my big thing there. And then the Rams and the Bengals game. Joe Burrow played in this game. Was a little bit questionable about that. I was, debating whether or not I was going to play him or if I was going to play Jared Goff. So I did the safe thing. I played Jared Goff. But I can't really say the Bengals won that game by Joe Burrow, although Joe Burrow kind of had some comeback, a comeback sense to him where he was able to play, good enough to help him out. But the story of this game was more or less the defense and Logan Wilson and how Cincinnati played this game. That defense was all over Matthew Stafford and that whole offense for the Rams. The Rams were not able to do anything at all throughout this entire game. Kyron Williams, who's been good this year, a good start to him this year, was not able to get anything going. Matthew Stafford had a couple tough calls there too with, some couple interceptions, and he kept just throwing it into Logan Wilson's way, which was, definitely a struggle right there. But that was tough to really see right there. So, the Bengals got some things going. Jamar Chase had a big comeback game in this one, played considerably well. T. Higgins was still kind of nowhere to be found. Joe Mixon actually played pretty good. They ran the ball more times than I thought they were going to, which I thought that was the right way to do it. I think they needed to run the ball a lot more and avoid the passing attack in case like Burrow gets hurt in this game, and then the Rams coming out on top. So, but Matthew Stafford though, as well as he's been playing this year, this was not one of his best games. I thought this was a very tough defense that he faced against 2 weeks in a row. You play San Fran's defense, and then you go ahead and you play Cincinnati's defense. They're not easy defenses to play. So those were 2 tough defenses to play against. But overall, the Bengals, they're coming back. I think their defense is definitely back after losing 2 of their best safeties from last year. So they'll get themselves back together. I think their offense will get going again. They have another chance to go 2-2 going into next week when they go to play the Tennessee Titans, and then the Rams go in and play the Colts, and they have another chance to be able to get themselves back on top of the world. So with all that being said, everybody, that concludes my Week 3 recap for the NFL season for 2023. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Please be sure to drop a like on this video if you have not done so already, and hit that subscribe button as well. Anytime that I post new content here on JP Football Fanatics, you guys will be the very first ones to be notified as far as when I post new content on JP Football Fanatics. And as far as the comments go, let me know in the comments down below what you guys are thinking about my stuff and how you would like me to improve the channel moving forward. So thank you guys for tuning in. Always means a lot. This is your boy James saying thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all next time. Peace.